Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Hi students, welcome to the session. In this session, we are going to talk about the movements in animals. Up till now, in the previous sessions, we talked about how the movement was produced in human beings with the help of skeletons and muscles. Also, we saw the importance of joints. Now, in this particular session, we are going to talk about the gait of animals. What does gait of animal means? Basically, gait means the movements, right? What kind of movement do we observe in different kinds of animal? That is what we are going to study in this particular chapter, in this particular session. So, the very first animal that we are going to study is the earthworm. Now, the activity that we need to do to study the gait of earthworm is simply to observe the earthworm. All of you must have seen what an earthworm is, and usually you will observe these earthworms during the rainy seasons. In the rainy season, the earthworm comes out and they are easily visible on different areas, right? So what you need to do is observe an earthworm, right? Moving earthworm, that is moving in the soil, moving on soil. Then what you can do, you can gently lift it up and then put it on the, say a blotting paper or a filter paper, so you can see the movement on filter paper. Now be very careful students while picking it up. When you will pick it up, you will see that it is a very soft animal, right? The skin is a little moist, and that's why you need to be very, very careful. So you pick it up and put it on the filter paper or a blotting paper, and then you observe its movement. Then what you can do is that you can put it on a glass plate, right? Next you put it on a glass plate, right? And observe its movement there. Now, the purpose of this activity is to observe the ease of the movement, whether the earthworm was able to move easily on the glass plate, on the filter paper and on the soil, and to compare all these three movements, that how the earthworm was able to move in all of these. You will find that earthworm was able to move very easily in the soil, and it was a little difficult for it to move on the glass plate. We will understand the reason of the same in when we understand that how exactly do the earthworms move. Now, once we've performed this activity, now let's go ahead and look at the locomotion in earthworm. That is, how does an earthworm move from one place to the other? Now, as you know, earthworm has a body which contains rings that are joined end to end, right? So you can see this is how the earthworm body is, meaning as you can see in this particular video also, you will find that there are rings, right? Over here you can see the rings that are present on the earthworm. Apart from that, the earthworm does not have bone. So they do not have bones. What they do have is muscles, right? So the whole body is made up of muscles and there are no bones. Now, up till now, you've studied the movement that is happening in the human beings. So in that you saw that how the movement was coordinated with the help of bones and muscles. So you might wonder that how is it possible for the earthworm to move on its own, right? And although it doesn't have a bone, it simply have muscles. So how is it possible for it to move? So there is a very peculiar way in which the earthworm moves forward. This diagram will help you in understanding the same. So the movement in the earthworm happens with the help of these muscles, which extend the body of the earthworm and shortens it. And this is the movement that we see while we observe the movement or locomotion in earthworm. In this particular video also you will see that the body is shortening itself and then it is extending itself, right? And that's how, now over here you can see the movement, that is extension, and then you will see the shortening, right? So in this way the earthworm moves forward. Let's understand in a little detail how this takes place and how exactly the whole body of the earthworm is pushed forward. So first of all, during the movement of the earthworm, first the extension takes place. First the extension occurs in the front end of the body. Right? Now, as you can see in this diagram, that first the extension has taken place. Over here also you can see that first the extension is taking place. Once the extension happens, during this extension, the rear end, right, the back portion of the earthworm is fixated onto the ground, right? So the back portion gets fixed on the ground and the first portion is extended. This fixation is important so that only the first part of the earthworm moves forward. If the fixation doesn't take place, this extension is not possible, right? So the first parts extends and the first part extends towards the direction of the motion, and the second part over here gets, or the rear part is fixated. Now, once the extension has happened, then what happens is the front end gets fixed. Right? Now, the front end is fixed over here, you can see, and then what happens is it releases the rear end. Now, once the rear end is released, it shortens its body. Now, over here you can see the extension and then the shortening of the body, right? Over here the shortening is happening place, right? So, first the front end is extended, it gets fixed at that point, and then it shortens the rear end of the body, right? Now, once this particular thing happens, once this motion happens, the body of the earthworm moves forward in the direction of the front end, right? So, simply to understand that, first of all, the extension, if you look at this video carefully, let's understand this with the help of this video. The very first thing which happens is the extension. As you can see, the extension over here is taking place and the rear end is fixed. Then you can see the next part, what is happening is the shortening of the rear end. So basically what happens is that the first end is extended. At that time the rear end is fixed. Now, once the extension of the front end has taken place, the rear end is released. When the rear end is released, it is pulled forward, right? All this pulling and the extension is happening because of the muscles that are present in the body of the earthworm. And in this way, right, in this extension and shortening of the body allows the earthworm to move in the forward direction, right? Now, and this again, these movements which are repeating one after the other, that is the expansion and contraction of the muscles, the earthworm moves forward. Now, the other question is that how does the the body of the earthworm helps? Apart from the muscles that are present in the earthworm, the body of the earthworm is slimy. Now, when you picked it up, right, I told you when you will pick it up, you will find that it is a little moist, right? So, this moisture actually helps it in moving in the soil so that there is minimum to no friction of the soil with the body of the earthworm. This slime actually protects the earthworm in the soil, right? So we know that soil is a rough surface. It also might have small pebbles which might cause harm to the body of the earthworm. But this slimy substance which is secreted by the body helps in the movement, also protects the fragile skin of the earthworm. Under its body, it also has a number of tiny bristle-like structures. I told you that bristle-like structures, right? I told you that during the movement, the front end is extended and the rear end gets fixated at one point. How does this happen? This happens because of the presence of these bristles-like structure which are present in the lower end of its body. Right? These are very small structures and these bristles are actually controlled by the muscles only. Right? So these bristles-like structure are connected to the muscles, and that's why the fixation of the earthworm's body takes place. Right? If these structures were not present, like we saw that the rear end got fixed and then the front end got fixed, that would not have happened. Now, you must have heard that earthworm is also known as the farmer's friend. Why does this happen is because the earthworm actually eats its way through the soil. So what it does is, suppose there is a lump of soil, right? So what it will do is it will eat the soil, right? And then it will move forward in the soil and from the rear end it actually removes the undigested particles. So this undigested food particle which is there, right, undigested part of the soil, this is very important for the plants, right? This is utilized by the plants. Now, if you understand another thing which the earthworm does is that it creates air holes because it is eating its way through the soil. So what is happening? It is creating small air holes that helps in the aeration of the soil, which again helps in the growth of the plants, right? So in this way we see how the locomotion of earthworm is taking place. Now let's perform another activity and then we will see the locomotion in snail. So what is the activity here? What we are going to observe is, we are going to observe a garden snail, right? And this a snail, right? And we are going to see that how the snail is moving. Now you will find that there is a rounded structure, that means it's a shell-like structure which the snails carry. Now you might wonder whether or not the shell actually helps in the movement, because it's one of the hard structures that is present in the snail's body. But students, this hard structure is of no use. This hard structure is called as the shell, right? And this actually doesn't help in the movement of the body. It is just a hard shell. It's basically the outer skeleton, right? It protects the soft body of your snail, right? So you know that the body of the snail is quite soft, like as you can see over here, and this shell actually helps in the protection of the soft body. And this shell, like I said, is just the outer skeleton. It doesn't help in the movement. It has to be dragged along. So how do you think the movement takes place? Now if you look at the video over here that we are seeing, you will be seeing that there is a little movement right over here, right? This is how the movement is taking place in the case of the snails. To observe it in a better way, what you can do is you can pick up the snail from the garden and you can put it on the transparent glass sheet and you can observe it from below, right? So suppose this is the glass sheet, you have placed a snail over here and observe it from below. Use a transparent glass sheet which will help you in understanding the movement that is taking place in the snail. So what happens is, there is a thick structure and the head of the snail. Now when you will observe it from below, you will find that from this hard shell there are two things which are projecting out. One is the head, right? So this is the head of the snail, and other thing which you will see is the thick structure, right? There is a thick structure which will come out from the opening of the snail, right? As you can see over here also, you can see the head, right? This is the head of the snail, and over here you can see this thick body, right? And if you observe closely, it is coming out of this shell, right? Now what happens is that movement, let's understand how the movement takes place. Now this thick structure that we are talking about over here that you can see is known as the foot of the snail, right? This structure is the foot, right? It's just one, and it is the foot that helps in the movement of the snail. The snail moves forward by the wavy motion created by the strong muscles of the foot. So the foot contains strong muscles. Now if you see that the outer skeleton which is present, it is the only hard bony like structure which is there. The snail's body as it is doesn't have any kind of bones inside it, right? It only has a thick structure which is called as the foot, which helps the movement of the snail it helps in for forward movement of the snail by producing a wave like motion. Over here also you can see how there is a wave like motion that is happening in the structure which helps in forward movement of the snail, right students? So once we've observed the locomotion in the earthworm and in the snail, next we are going to move on and understand the movement of an insect, and what we are going to do is we are going to observe an cockroach, right? So we are going to observe a cockroach to understand the movement of this particular insect. Once we do that, we will be able to understand to an extent the movement of other insects as well. So if you look at the body of cockroach, usually you will find that there are 3 pair of foot, 3 pair of legs, right? That means 3 pair over here. You will, as you can see in this diagram, what you will observe is 1, 2 and 3. So 1 over here, 1 on the other side. So in this way there are 3 pairs of legs. That means total 6, right? So these 3 pairs of legs help in walking, and you can see that there are variety of motions that we see in a cockroach. They walk, they help in climbing, right, and even you see that these are the 2 things which these 3 pair of legs help in. Now apart from that, the cockroach also have wings, right? So they have how many? 2 pairs of wings which help them in flying. So the cockroach shows locomotion in 3 ways, that is walking, climbing any surfaces, and flying. So these 3 pairs help in the walking, whereas the 2 pairs of wings help in flying. So in this way we see how easily these, how different types of movements are seen in a cockroach, and how or what are the organs which are present to help them in the same. So like we were talking about the exoskeleton, this is the type of skeleton that is present outside the body and is called as the exoskeleton, right? Ours is an endoskeleton, that means it is present inside our body, right? Exoskeleton, what are the functions? It gives protection and support, and also allows movement at the joints, such as in the crab and the cockroach. So both of these animals have the exoskeleton. These have hard outer covering. Although these are the skeletons and they provide protection and support, but still they have certain joints which allow the movement easily, like we saw in the case of the endoskeleton of human beings, right? Now